A family found a house to relax in, but that house distorts space and time. No matter what they do, they cannot leave until one of them faces their grim nature. We see the inside of a home at night. Near the stairs, someone stands to show their shadow. Then a little girl wakes up in her bed. She senses someone's presence and yells out hello from her bed. After that, we see someone move in the other room. The girl runs and closes the door before returning to bed. Then as she lies there, a man appears in bed with her. He tells her she cannot breathe, and so she stops breathing. After a short time of talking to her, he tells her she can breathe again. He mentions something about her father, and then a man wakes up. It was all his nightmare. He goes to check on his daughter and sees that everything is okay. The next scene has that man, Theo, lying near a pool and listening to a lecture on meditation. Then he gets a buzz on his phone and tells a lady there that it's for her. She is his wife, Susanna. She asks him to pick up their daughter, Ella, and he agrees to it. When Susanna walks into the house, Theo continues to listen to his meditation. We then see a dreamlike display of him and her playing hide and seek with Ella. The scene changes to Theo arriving somewhere and hearing his wife perform a romantic scene as an actress. He tells the security man there that he is her husband, but after not being allowed clearance, he stands and listens to Susanna perform. When her workday is finished, she and Theo get in their car. While sitting, he tells her that the security man recognized him. Then they engage in a romantic scene of their own. As they do it, he asks her to come away with him. After that, we see a house getting booked. The three of them ride in the car and Ella talks about life and death with her father. Shortly after, a car comes at them, but a collision is evaded. They stop then and the parents come out. Susanna tells Theo that he should mention heaven to Ella next time, but he responds that he cannot sell what he does not believe. Afterward, they arrive at their location. It impresses them with its size and design, but Susanna is having difficulty getting a connection on her phone. As Ella is jumping on the couch, her father comes to her and tries to sell her the idea of heaven. She asks him if everyone goes there. Before he answers, however, Susanna calls Ella to come to look at her bed. At night, we see a portrait of the house on a wall. Ella creates shadow animals in her room and then sees a shadow of some figure. Soon after, her father comes up to her. She tells him about the shadow she saw and he misunderstands it as her making shadows. Then he tucks her into bed and turns her light off. A while later, Theo and Susanna talk in their room. Then they see that Ella is spying on them, so she runs back into bed. After that, Theo walks the house to turn off all the lights. He has a hard time turning off a certain lamp. A switch there allows him to turn off many lights, but that one stays on. In another room, he turns off a lamp. When he does, he notices an open door that was just closed. The light is also on in there and Theo enters the room. He sees a strange picture there. Then he leaves and closes the door. After leaving the main room, the table lamp turns back on. When he comes back to his bedroom, he starts talking to his wife, but then he observes that she is sleeping. He does not believe she could be asleep so fast. Then he sits near her and she awakens with a spook. She tells him she had the worst dream. Then he goes to bed himself. When he does, we see that the clock shows it being past 3 in the morning. Hours passed as he walked the house. He then sleeps and has an odd dream. Theo wakes up at almost 11 in the morning. A note there tells him that his wife and daughter went walking. After getting up, he sits at a table and listens to his meditation lecture. We see him writing words that describe how he feels. Meanwhile, Susanna and Ella are outside. Ella climbs a tree and her mother urges her to come down because she is too high. While climbing, Ella asks her mom why people hate her father. Then she stands on the tree and falls on her mother. Later on, she asks her mother that question once more, and Susanna starts telling her about Theo's past wife. She states how she lost her life in a bathtub. As they speak, Theo writes a lot in his notebook. Then Ella asks if her father ended his past wife's life, to which Susanna says he did not. She further says that Theo went to court and was found innocent, but some people still found him to be guilty of something. After that, Theo drives to a nearby store to get groceries. When he tells the clerk there what he wants, he delivers it to him one item at a time. It amuses and somewhat annoys Theo. Then the clerk asks him if he met the homeowner, Stetler. Theo tells him he did not, and then the clerk gives him a triangular ruler. When he leaves the store, a lady near his car asks him how he found the house. He says to her that he used the internet. Then he adds that he never met Stetler, but she tells him that Stetler saw him. Then she leaves. In the next scene, Theo comes home with the groceries. As soon as he arrives, Ella says she is sorry about what happened to him. Later, we see Theo asking Susanna what she told their daughter. She tells him what she said, and that disappoints him, for he wanted to tell her when she was slightly older. Afterward, they get into a small argument over the food he acquired. What follows is the family eating dinner. As they finish up, Ella puts her hand on her father's to comfort him. After dinner, Susanna starts taking a bath and Theo looks through her phone. Then he puts it down and looks through her tablet. He speaks to her across the room while he does it to lessen his chance of getting caught. After that, he looks through her laptop. It seems like he found nothing of interest while he investigated and puts everything down when he hears that she finished. When they are face to face, Theo tells his wife that she handled explaining his situation to Ella better than he could. When they sleep, Theo sits up when it's past midnight. Susanna asks if he's okay, but he just tells her to go back to sleep. Following that, he listens to his lecture in a room. While he sits, he gets an image of a lady submerged in a bathtub, and then she opens her eyes and he gets taken aback by it. Then he opens his notebook and sees a message he did not write. The message tells him he should leave now. He then turns around, but we see that the window reflects him differently. After that, he hears a sound from one of the rooms and stands up. He looks in that room and then at the entrance, but nothing unusual is there. So he goes downstairs and walks along the basement. Someone passes quickly behind him, and then he partially sees a person standing beyond the wall, who then walks away. He tries announcing himself to whoever it is, but no one shows up. As he continues walking, he discovers many pictures lying on the floor. He picks one of them up and sees himself and Ella lying in bed. That instantly makes him express his disbelief. Then he finds Ella's toy, which leads him to discover Ella. She lies unconscious in a room and he carries her and panics. When he sets her down, he strongly believes that it's a dream. He desperately tries to wake himself by breaking a bottle and using it to do the trick. With that action, he awakens at last. He is simultaneously relieved and worried. Susanna stands near the sink and tells him she had a bad dream. She tells it to him, but he states he thinks he has her beat with his. Then he takes her to the room where the madness began. He says there was an extra door there that took him to a basement. After that, Theo shows her the picture in the other room and says how it was in the dream. That makes Susanna tell him that it was all a dream. Later, we see them saying that they dislike being at the house. They agree to leave and start packing. Then in the kitchen, Theo messages his wife while she plays outside with Ella, but he finds her phone right there with him. He then sees her being on another phone through the window. He goes to the notebook and opens it to look at the message he did not write. While looking at it, he says he did not dream that. Afterward, he turns to the next page and discovers yet another message. It tells him that he should have left and that now it's too late. Then he comes outside to Susanna and states he wants to talk to her. Ella goes into the house and Theo takes out Susanna's phone. He then tells his wife that she has two phones. She admits that she does and Theo guesses who the other guy could be. That prompts him to ask if he was here and if he wrote in his notebook. But his wife says he was never in that house with them, and she doesn't know who wrote in his notebook. That conversation causes him to tell her to leave. She tells him she'll take Ella, but he does not allow it. He adds that she broke the rules. Sometime later, we see Susanna getting in the car to drive away. Theo tells her that he wants her away for one day. As she drives and then stops somewhere, she cries in the car. Then in the kitchen of the house, Ella tells her father that she doesn't like it there. She tells him that it brings her bad dreams. He reassures her by saying they will leave as soon as her mother comes back, which is tomorrow. After that, he finds water on the floor. He puts water in a glass and pours it next to the two small puddles there. And then he observes how the water he poured got absorbed by the two puddles. He senses the abnormality of the house with that incident and then starts measuring the wall with his triangular ruler. Then he and Ella measure a room inside with a tape measure. It is 26 feet long, but when they measure it outside, it comes out to 21 feet in length. Theo states to himself and his daughter that it is longer inside than outside. After that, Ella goes inside the house to get her coat. When she gets it and goes through a door, we see that she does not exit from where we would expect her to. Theo then goes looking for her inside the house. He finds her coat on the floor and cannot find her anywhere. Ella appears in a dark hallway by herself, not knowing where she is. Theo moves through the house and then finds himself back in the kitchen. After that, he tries to fight with the house by placing a chair at the doorway but then sees a long hallway behind him. Meanwhile, Ella enters a room in the hallway she's stuck in, and Theo opens the door that is sometimes there and sometimes is not. A long dark hallway appears before him. He enters it and the door shuts behind him. Ella wanders in the dark until she finds a bathtub full of water and a lady submerged within. When the girl comes near it, the lady moves her hand, causing Ella to scream. Her father hears her and looks for her with greater urgency. Then a creepy man shows up and talks to Ella. And soon after, Theo breaks through a door and finds his daughter sitting on the stairs in a normal room. He comforts her and sits with her elsewhere on a couch. While there, Theo tries calling Susanna, but she does not answer. So he calls again and leaves a message. After that, he gets the idea to call the man at the store. Theo tells him that he needs a taxi, but the man says that there are no taxis in that area. He then tells him about the other area where they are. But soon after, he asks Theo if he used the triangle, to which Theo responds that he did. The clerk then starts talking about how ants don't understand a cathedral or a powerhouse. And similarly, the Stettler house is incomprehensible to them. He adds that they don't know what they can't know. Afterward, he starts saying how the devil created the house. God destroys it, but the devil creates it over and over again. Theo interjects and firmly states that they need to leave now. However, the clerk says that it's not up to him and then hangs up. What follows is a strange voice telling Theo that it is always here. The next scene has Theo and Ella getting ready to leave. When they walk outside, Ella sees someone standing in the house. She tells her father and he tells her to keep moving. While they move, they hear animal sounds that scare them, but no animals end up surprising them. Then Theo states to see lights not too far away. Shortly after, he says that they made it. But then, much to his chagrin, he sees they return to the Stettler house. He dreadfully tells his daughter where they are. Ella tells him that she doesn't want to go there, but her father says they don't have a choice. As she keeps resisting, Theo states they can't survive outside all night, so they go back in. Following that, the father and daughter are in bed. Theo tells her about her mother and himself. He then says how Ella is the only thing that truly mattered in his life and he had to wait to get her. Afterward, they try sleeping. While they do, a white light appears over them like in a picture being taken. Theo awakens due to that and hears running water in the bathroom. He goes in there and the doors close behind him. He becomes stuck in the dark part of the house again and hears his daughter call his name. Theo then makes it to the room with the bathtub. The water runs and he comes to it. When he gets close enough, a lady takes him from behind and then pushes him to the floor. While sitting on top of Theo, she emits water from her mouth on him. With that happening, she disappears and Theo appears in a different place. He frantically moves through the house in search of his daughter. Then in that room with the picture, he finds another one of him sleeping alongside Ella. He then leaves that room and perceives himself sitting and writing in his notebook. After seeing his past self leave, we see that it was he who wrote the message in the book. Afterward, Theo goes further back in time to the day when they first arrived there. He gets a call on his phone and the man on the other end tells him that he's not going anywhere. After that, Theo keeps experiencing events that already took place there. He looks at his watch and observes its abnormal behavior. Then he tries climbing the stairs but struggles in doing so. When he finally climbs up, though, he returns to the house in its normal form. He sees his wife arrive through the window, but then quickly sees that it's her past self coming in with his past self too. After that disappointment, he appears in the darkness of the house again. This time he observes a man standing there with a cane. Theo asks him if he's Stetler. Then he asks for Ella. He hears her and tells the man to let her go. Following that, he takes his cane and begins striking him with it. The man speaks to Theo about his sin and Theo denies having done it. He keeps striking the man until he reveals himself to be Theo. Afterward, Theo tells his revealed self to let Ella go once more, but the man tells him that he is the only one keeping her here. This causes Theo to break down and say that he can't do it anymore. Then his revealed self disappears. Ella comes down to her father and he apologizes to her for not being truthful, but she tells him that she loves him no matter what. She then asks him if it's time to go home and he tells her that it is for her and her mother. We then see them leave the house. They see Susanna there and Theo puts his daughter in the car. He looks at her sadly before he leaves. His wife asks if he's coming with them and he answers that it won't let him. He further says that he belongs here. Then she states that they can try and work through it, but he tells her that he ended his previous wife. He let her drown. And his final words are that he can't run from his shadow. We then see that it was he who was standing in the house when he and Ella were walking away from it at night. He looks at them and then flickers away. In the final scene, we zoom toward the picture of the house on the wall in the hallway. The voiceover of the clerk tells us how the house usually finds those that stay in it rather than the other way around.